What's up guys, welcome to another build video for Outriders, and in this video I'm going to be going through the Devastator DPS firepower build, and this is again a budget build for the average player who's struggling to get to endgame, or you're stuck from mid to endgame. You're kind of like in the middle section, you know. You've just beat the story mode and you're trying to make your way through the expeditions and you're struggling a little bit with expeditions. So this should help you out, because a lot of the guide videos online, you know, if you're looking for build videos, a lot of them, they're like, you know, to make this build work, they'll have all these legendary weapons and mods. I wanted to make build videos for just the average player who doesn't have all the legendary mods or gear sets. So yeah, let's get into this build. This is a firepower build, so this is for the player who likes using weapons. For this one, I'm running the top 3 Vanquisher, so you only get 20 points, so use these points wisely. This is just what I recommend getting, you know. So the first point, you have to get it, so it doesn't matter, just a bit of damage. And then this is, I chose armor piercing, you know, pierce a bit of armor. Close range weapon damage by 15%. Now, close range weapon damage is any damage you do like within a certain radius around you, so whatever weapon you're using, melee attacks or skills, as long as the enemy is near you, is close range damage. Shotgun damage by 15%, I chose that, and then I chose more armor piercing, increased weapon damage, and this is mandatory, this skill. You use protection whenever you use golem. We'll be using golem on this one, or you get 45% weapon boost for 45 seconds, so that's what that's for. I chose critical damage. The other perk is weapon recoil. You can manage the recoil by yourself, so this is not really needed. So this is way more this is way more useful, in my opinion. Weapon damage, assault weapon damage, so you'll be using assault weapon quite a bit. More weapon damage, increased close range damage, so your close range weapon damage. As a Devastator, you'll be in the enemy's faces quite a lot, so always good to have damage. This is skill cooldown, not really that important. Your cooldowns are fine as they are. Increase your weapon damage by 8%, reload 20%. Now this one is useful, increased damage against elites, but it really doesn't matter because you will be doing damage. Overall, your weapon damage will be pretty good, so this is, I would skip this if I was you, you know. And then confrontation. Enemies who damage you have the physical damage reduced, you know. So it's a mandatory one. More armor piercing, so you got like 30% armor piercing or so. And then this one, when your skill ends, your weapon damage is increased by 70%. So you really want this one. This is mandatory. So I would say this one and this one is mandatory. All the rest is up to you, but this is what I recommend, you know. And also I went down here for when enemies die in close, you gain a bit of their armor, because you be a bit very squishy. Top 3 is very squishy. You got very few ways to heal yourself, so it's quite, so you know, you want a bit of armor on that. Increase your health. Stone circle, this is useful because it extends the distance, what is considered close range, by 4 meters, so an additional 4 meters is considered close range, so you will get the close range damage bonus extended. And I chose this perk, increase your armor by 7% for each enemy in close range, so the more enemies near you, get more armor. So this is the class skills. If you spec like this, your weapon damage should be decent. We're gonna talk about the skills now. Golem, of course, this protects you. It gives you 65% damage reduction, endless mass that pulls enemies together. And I know it says this inflicts bleed. It doesn't inflict bleed to all the enemies, just the enemy it encases in stone, which is pretty pointless. So you're gonna need a mod. We're gonna add additional mods to that. And then this is just gravity leap, nothing special. Leaps in the air, comes crashing down. It's just part of the mods that give you the damage boost. Here you see. So endless mass and gravity leap. Boulder dash is a bit trash, puts you in the way of danger, doesn't really do much. This is boulder dash. It's got a short cooldown, so it's pretty good, but it can make you can't really stop it or control it that well. It's an awkward skill to use, so I don't like using it at all. I would advise not to use it. These 3 are fine. You know, this one gives you invulnerability in the air, so you can use this as an escape tool. The most important thing about a firepower build is getting your gear right. I'll have some recommendations on weapon mods you should be using, but the most important attribute is the firepower there. So all your gear should have firepower. Mistake I was making in the past when I first started the game is I was using different armor pieces that had different stats like anomaly power or health, you know, or health as the main stat, but you want a piece with firepower. You see that's got firepower and that's got anomaly, so that will give you skill damage, but this is a firepower build. This is weapon firepower to be precise. For your guns, you want a firepower on all armor pieces, firepower, and all the other stats are secondary, you know. So I got status power, that increases stuff like bleed and vulnerability and all the statuses that I can apply. But the second most important thing is the mods. So you can mix and match, but I would say the most important mods are Golem of Death. When you've got Golem of Death on, you kill an enemy and it extends the duration of Golem, so increase your tankiness. And then Endless Mass, bleed them all. So when it pulls all of them, it applies bleed on all the pulled enemies. So those are, like, I'd say some of the mandatory mods. And then also suggestions, which I strongly suggest, is Vampiric Mag. Since you'll be bleeding enemies quite a lot as a Devastator, Vampiric Mag, restore your mag every time you kill a bleeding enemy, and Bloody Boost damage to enemies that are bleeding by 15%. So these mods are not really hard to get. They're all tier 2 mods, no legendaries, all easy to get. You can buy them all from the shop, from the vendors, or just from any epic gear you see, you know. You can get, they're very easy to get. That's why I call this a budget build. And then also mods that increase your pierce, your resistant piercing, or firepower, like this one, crit shots build up effect of firepower and anomaly power. So basically avoid anything that increases anomaly power or anything like that. You just want firepower. All mods like this one receive firepower, so everything should just basically give you firepower. I also recommend adding emergency stance or some sort of defensive mods, because you are quite squishy in this one, you know. You're quite squishy and your ways to heal are limited, nearly non-existent, you know. So it's quite the opposite of the vampiric build, so you're quite a lot squishier. I mean, you might be a bit tankier than the other classes, but only by a bit. You still get one shot if you're not careful. Again, I'm using a shotgun and an assault rifle. I like running bone shrapnel, because when enemies get killed, they explode, dealing bleed damage to everyone around them, so it's quite a good perk. But you can run bleed rounds as well, and you can run different other mods that you can choose. You know, it's quite a flexible build, but the main thing is you want to bleed enemies and make sure that you kill bleeding enemies. So all these mods are easy to get, and you can find them from various vendors or just various epic weapon drops, epic armor or weapon drops. So I recommend Damage Link if you're going to use for weapon mods. If you're going to use some weapon mods, which I recommend, is Damage Link tier 2 version. You can get this from anywhere in the game, vendors. You basically deal damage to one enemy and it links the damage, and enemies around that target get additional damage taken. They basically get damaged as well for a little bit of the damage. Vulnerable, you can't go wrong with this. Just increases the damage you do by lowering the defenses by 15%. So you can't go wrong with that. Bone shrapnel. So if you do find a weapon with, let's say, bone shrapnel on it, you could put vulnerable, and you would have both of these two mods on them. So bleed rounds, I can also recommend a bit of bleed if you've got bleed. But if you were going for pure damage, pure DPS, you can go for these 3 mods. Claymore, normally blade hits enemy. Lightning rounds, this one, Storm Whip, basically lightning hits the enemy over the head. And also Death Chains, which is probably the best one. So if you've got any If you've got a weapon with death chains and you add lightning rounds on it and have both of these mods at the same time, you're just doing some crazy DPS. Like, you can melt enemies. The armor is also quite flexible, but since you're quite squishy in this class, you want to add some defensive mods, you know. I recommend Golem Perseverance, so that increases the duration of Golem. It doubles it to 16 seconds instead of 8. Also, definitely run Golem of Death. Extend it for each kill. Each kill adds 2 seconds, you know, so you can keep it up quite a long time. And then for Endless Mass, I recommend adding Shattered Armor. You see, all the enemies that have been pulled by it take 20% weapon damage. Use Bleed Them All for that extra bleed weakness to bleed, the extra damage to bleed enemies. You can also add Vulnerable, so they'll take even more damage. But for defensive mods, Emergency Stance, of course, is one of the best. You attain Golem when your health hits 40 seconds. This has saved me so many times. Without this on my build, I was dying quite a lot, you know, because your Golem will run out when there's no enemies to fight, and you will have a few seconds in battle without Golem on, and you will be very squishy, so this is useful. Another one I recommend is Perseverance Shield. When you receive shields whenever your health drops, this isn't as good as Emergency Stance, so if you had to pick between these two, definitely Emergency Stance. Another good defensive mod that I recommend you have on your armor is Mitigation from Death. Killing enemies while aiming down sights increases your armor. There is other mods, of course. There's so many mods in this game that will help you out. Like, the class isn't as tanky as the bottom 3 Devastator. Of course, this build is a lot stronger if you have all the legendary mods and tier 3 mods and legendary, but this is just a budget version. All of these mods are tier 2, as you'll see in the gameplay. You can run high level expeditions with this. I'll leave a bit of gameplay footage so you can see. But if this video helps you out, let me know in the comments if it helps you out, you know, because I want to help the guys struggling, because I struggled for quite a while trying to get to the end game, and most of the build videos I was running into required specific armor sets, and I haven't got all the armor sets yet, or the crazy good legendary weapons. I just got the Death Shield yesterday, so this is just a build which doesn't require all the legendaries or any epic mods. It's basically just a budget version that you can do. Of course, if you get legendaries and all these other epic mods, you can make it better yourself, but if you're struggling, try this build out. Got me to challenge tier 14. I can't get to 15, I just haven't done it yet. It got me this high, so yeah, hope this vid helps you out. Like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if this video helped you out, and I'll see you next time.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Children, gather round. No retreat, no surrender. That is Spartan law. And by Spartan law, we will stand and fight and die. A new age has begun. An age of freedom. And all will know Spartans gave their last breath